Hi everyone, it's Linda and Michelle. It is Saturday afternoon. We're in the parking lot of the theater and we just came from seeing the movie Back to Black. What'd you think?
It's the story of Amy Winehouse from her very earlier years. I guess she started as a young person until the end of her life. But I liked the movie. I did. I found it very interesting. I found it very heartbreaking. As talented as she was, and she was very talented, she had other problems that made it very hard for her to become a success, I think. How did you view it?
Well, I've never been a big Amy Winehouse fan, personally, more so because of her lifestyle than because of her music, although her music never did much for me. But I certainly know that she is known as one of the best voices to ever have lived. And her Back to Black album was like phenomenally sold, and you know.
That's it, yeah.
So I know about her, but I found the movie to be sad. I don't know if I would look at it as a story of her life, because I thought there were a lot of holes in it. I thought there was a lot of pieces missing.
Yeah, it focused on things kind of that she totally attached herself to, and then kind of lost, like it seemed like her and her grandmother had a real strong relationship. Her grandmother encouraged her singing. Her grandmother was a performer also. And then when she fell in love, she totally gave herself as best she could to this relationship and pretty much never let it go.
Yeah. It was sad because she hooked, and okay, so we start with her as probably 18, I think, in the beginning.
I was going to say somewhere around there.
And she appears to be this wholesome young girl.
I was going to say she's very clean cut, wholesome, no drugs.
Although she is doing some drinking from the very beginning of the movie.
And a lot of smoking.
Yeah, and slowly the drinking became more and more. But what was interesting to me in the movie was all of a sudden at one point somebody gave her some crack, and where that came from, like there was no lead up to the drugs. It was like she didn't use drugs, and then all of a sudden she's got crack and a pipe. And that just kind of blew me away, and it was like,
how I looked at
what
that,
was the buildup?
How I looked at that was that her relationship with the man.
But they were split up then.
No, even at the very beginning, their very first night together, he was
offered her cocaine.
He was doing cocaine,
and she refused it and said, "I don't use drugs."
Right, and she refused it at that point.
And she didn't. I did in the movie. She didn't use drugs until all of a sudden she was in New York and somebody brought her some.
I don't know. I just thought it was with her relationship with this guy that somehow, maybe, I don't know if he turned her around.
Okay, I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, I mean.
But anyhow, then there was pieces like they show you in the beginning of the movie that she's bulimic, but there's no mention of that again until pretty much the end of the movie. And then her mom is present at the beginning of the movie, but there's no mom during the whole movie until the end again.
It was her and her dad.
There was just these like holes that like...
It was. You're perfect. You're right. You're absolutely right.
It was tell the story.
Disjointed a little bit in how it was presented.
Yeah, and she obviously loved the man she married, Blake, and never ever let go of him. And when he turned to her, said no to her, and broke off their relationship, I think that was the end for her.
Right, yeah, and she did. He told her she needed rehab. He said both of them were addicts the last time they were together, and she did attempt rehab, obviously.
I wonder
Yeah.
though when she heard that he was having a baby with his.
That seemed to set her over
yeah.
because somewhere in the movie she said all I ever wanted was to get married and be a mom.
Yeah.
And evidently they were trying that because pregnancy was taking place, but
Yeah, she had a pregnancy test during the movie, and it came back negative, and that seemed to really affect her as well.
yeah.
Anyway, it's a sad movie, and she obviously was doomed from the beginning. I mean, it's so sad to look at somebody's life from such a young age who really kind of like.
And I thought it was kind of cute because her grandmother, who was popular as a singer, I'm assuming back in the day, she was mentioning some of her. Do you remember some of the stars she was mentioning? But she wanted to fix her up with her hair, and and her grandmother fixed her hair up so it's like 8 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
That
know,
was another thing that I never liked about her was her
yeah,
hair.
her hair was always a mess, and she maintained that look that her grandmother just loved it. It seems
it was
like,
interesting to know where that look came from because I
Yeah.
do remember that style that she had all of her
Yeah,
life, and so and you wondered where it came from, and it was interesting to see that it was her grandmother. I don't know. There was a box of photographs that showed up several times throughout the movie. Again, it
seemed
never
like it was her and her grandmother also.
Yeah, but there was so much story missing, I think. But it wasn't intended to be a biography. I think it was about the album Back to Black was the intention of it, since that's the title. But
Was that her last Grammy that she won?
well, it was her last album, I believe.
Her last
yeah.
album, yeah.
So how would you rate it, Michelle?
I'm torn on this one a little bit because I did like it to a degree, but a lot of the stuff you're talking about were things I saw also in it. So, and the other thing, sometimes I have a problem with this when you have those English movies with the voice.
Yeah, there were times that whole
Yeah,
scenes went past me without.
I really do. Sometimes I just wish, even though not everybody needs it, some of us might need to have a little bit of closed captioning going on to grasp some of what was being said, and that disappoints me when I go to a movie. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Okay, I was going with 6.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's not my favorite movie. It's not a bad movie. You
Yeah.
might really enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you liked Amy Winehouse,
Right,
you
and
may love the movie. You may
Especially
hate the movie
if you
because
you
it
were
really.
a fan when she was. I mean, she only passed away in 2011, so that's not 12 years ago, 13 years ago. But so she was famous for quite a few years, I believe. It seemed like. Said she passed away when she was 27. So, but anyway, that's
So
our
if you
take on
saw it, let us know what you thought and, what you kind of thought. If you felt it flowed, or were there what
If you felt there were some
holes in it.
some gaps in it too.
Yeah.
Even well, I don't want to go backwards, but even for a while there, she had 3 girlfriends, and then they never surfaced again. Her friends,
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of that in the movie. We saw quick pictures,
quick glance,
snapshots of her life, and then it would just disappear, and that part would be over.
Absolutely, she loved tattoos. Very obvious. Every event, it seemed like, in her life, she needed to mark it with a tattoo.
Yeah, she did.
So.
Yeah, that was interesting too.
Yeah.
So 6.5. That's what you got. How would you rate it? What would you give it? We'd be interested to know. And now,
Are we going to put it here on this one? Or are
yes,
gonna start a
we
different
are.
One? Okay.
We had someone in the comments ask us some of our favorite movies. And so I thought, okay, that would be a really good, nice thing to share. So I started to think about how many movies do I really love? How many movies have I seen that really have stuck with me? And I've got pages.
Oh my goodness.
But,
You really?
Michelle happened to have 11. And so I'm going to pick my top 11 and we'll go from that. And then maybe in a future movie or a future video, we'll share some other movies that we've really enjoyed in the past. And maybe this will help you to dig up some oldies, because the movies that I'm going to share are mostly fairly old movies.
And
you
so
can,
are mine, because mine just, I didn't research them. I just sat down and said movies that I really liked that came to my head, and I wrote them down. And a lot of them are from much younger me in some ways, going back to even my teens.
yeah,
And movies that I still would watch today, though, because I still like them.
well, I'm anxious to hear what they are, because I don't know what they are yet either.
Nope.
But my list was movies that kind of just made a difference to me, or opened my eyes to something, or just kind of was a movie that I came out of and went, wow. So, do you want to go first?
I could.
Okay.
I didn't have that kind of heavy duty thinking like Linda. These were movies that I enjoyed for one reason or another. And there's really no rhyme
Tell
or
us why.
um,
Why you enjoyed each one.
oh no, I'm not going to explain
No?
all of these.
No? Okay.
No. It's a Wonderful Life. Watch that every Christmas. It was a family movie, and I just enjoyed that movie, and I enjoy watching it every year. Another one that I liked was Casablanca, and it was old. It was black and white, and as a young person, I was fascinated with it, and just how they did movies back then fascinated me, because it's just and there's different phrases in there that I hear. Even my son-in-law sometimes yells them out. So that's one I liked a lot. The Shawshank Redemption. Now, that one wasn't a youthful movie. I saw that one more recently, and that was just a touching, I mean, who could not react to The Shawshank Redemption? And then I have Raiders of the Lost Ark, which when that came out, it was
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones, and it was a big hit in our family, and we had watched it all the time. We got on the TV, we got the DVDs and all that kind of stuff. The Titanic, and I still could watch the Titanic anytime. I just loved that movie also. When I was very younger, probably a teen, mid-teens, The Sound of Music. I really liked that movie, knew all the words to it, all the, the do-re-mi, the songs, and all of that. And my mom even bought me the album so I could listen to it. Fiddler on the Roof is another one of those from that similar period. And I've seen Fiddler on the Roof whenever it's out there on some kind of Broadway show. I love going to see that one. Hidden Figures, that one sort of just popped in my brain because...
Put it down, you're covering your mouth.
Because it was about I'm trying to exactly what they did, but they worked for NASA, and these women who were extremely intelligent and worked on the space things that were happening, and I don't think they got much credit for it until this movie came out and exposed them and everything that they did. On the Basis of Sex, which is Ruth Ginsburg, and I just was fascinated with her life in general, how she became a Supreme Court justice, and how she was determined from a very young girl, and how she worked her way through. And that was another one I liked. Obviously, Star Wars. Who didn't like Star Wars? That was, and I still could watch Star Wars again also. And the very last one I have on here is The Book Thief. And that's about World War II, and it's based on a book that I really enjoyed reading. It's actually, the book is more like I would call it a young adult book, but it was about Germany and the Jewish people, and how all of that was where people were hiding Jewish people in their homes, and that is a period that I have a lot of interest in. So that's my 11.
Okay. As many of those I really enjoy as well. Titanic is one of my favorites. The Shawshank Redemption is also, many of them I really love. Okay, if I was going to say my top 11 though, number one for me would be Snowden. That's a 2016 movie that was written about Edward Snowden, who worked for the NSA and basically released the secrets. He stole proof that the Americans were being traced by the government, and he leaked that information, which was classified to I think it was the New York Times. But that movie, I had, like, that just opened my eyes to things. After that, I was like putting tape over the video cameras in my Alexas and in my laptops and things like that, because really that just stuck with me. The next movie is A Beautiful Mind, which is a 2001 movie, and that's the story of John Nash. And I'm not going to ruin that by telling you too much about that, because that particular movie, just like,
that was one of my favorites too. I forgot about that one.
That movie is just amazing.
It is a good movie.
It's just so good. So if you have never seen it, first, those are two I highly recommend. The third would be Profile, and that's fairly recent. Michelle and I saw that together, I think, in 2018. And that was a movie that was done completely on the computer through text messages and emails.
I remember it, yeah.
Whoa, that movie, I remember when the theater went dark, when the movie was over, I was afraid to get up and walk out. It put fear in me. It's a story of a journalist, and the past three movies that I mentioned, including this Profile, are all true stories. But it's a story of a journalist who tried to expose a terrorist recruiter through social media, and it's done completely on the computer screen. So if you haven't seen it, I think that's a must-see. The fourth one I have is a real oldie, but again, a movie that has stuck with me over the years, and I've watched it many, many times, and that's Midnight Express. That comes from 1978. And that's about a young boy, Billy Hayes was his name, who was caught in Turkey trying to smuggle drugs, and put into prison in Turkey, and how he was abused, and just, the story of his life there was just awful. And eventually, I think in the end he escapes, but it was truly, really an unbelievable story. The fifth one is from 2006, again, another true story, Pursuit of Happiness. That is the story of Chris Gardner, who was homeless and had his young son to care for, and how he struggled, and how he got a job, and how he got back on his feet. And then ultimately Chris Gardner went down with the 9/11 tower, with the firm, the Gardner firm, when that happened. in 2001. But great story. If you haven't seen those 5, I highly recommend them. They're all great movies. Then Avatar, the first Avatar, is one of my all-time favorites.
I almost put that one down.
Yeah.
That one came to mind, yeah.
I really enjoyed the second one too, but the first one, I saw it 3 times in the movies before it went out. I just loved it. I loved the story behind it. So that's one. The Greatest Showman is another movie I saw several times in the movies, and I think that's basically about the music and the joy. There was just so much positivity. I think
Hugh Grant was so good in that.
Yes,
he was.
I really loved that one. Oppenheimer has become one of my favorite movies, and that's from last year. Begin Again, 2013. That's Keira Knightley and Adam Levine and Mark Ruffalo. I love it. I just do. First of all, I am an Adam Levine fan, a Maroon 5 fan, but Keira Knightley does the singing through this movie, and she is not a singer. But oh my God, I love it. The music in this, I have the CD and I've still listened to it frequently. Love that movie. And a real oldie is Tommy Boy. That's from 1995. That is a comedy, and it's just funny. And I have watched it many times over the years. I first saw it in the movies with my son way back. But I just find that one to be a really good comedy. And the last one I have on my list is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I also watch every year and find that to be very hysterically funny. And that's my list for now. So we would love for you to share with us some of your favorite movies. I don't know that we want, well, if you have 11, give us 11. But if you have 1 or 2 or 3, we'd really love that. Just to get movies that we might want to watch that we haven't seen. Could be an old movie, could be a new movie, whatever. And we'll check them out maybe and tell you what we think. So
Sounds good.
thanks for sharing that question or asking us that question. I think it was fun to do the little bit of thinking about it and you know, kind of sharing this with you.
Anyway.
And that's what we
That's
have.
it for today.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So have a great week if we don't chat before then. And leave us a comment, like our video. And if you haven't subscribed, we would love to have you as a subscriber. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.